Hello, welcome to part two. Sorry about the abrupt end to part one, but battery necessitating. Um, where I was to do with Rene Descartes' approach to philosophy, which was to disentangle and deconstruct philosophy with skepticism, to try and seek a point of certainty in a world of doubt, imperfection, and transitionary forces. Um, Now, for Descartes, it was seeking some perfection of epistemology, some indubitability, as Sherlock Holmes might have remarked. Um, but for I tried to speak in the very first lecture I did about how philosophy is like it's like whittling in scouts. I don't know if you probably if you're a female you probably didn't do so much of that, but how you would shape an object in order for the purposes of what it would be, and that's a bit like choosing your approach and choosing the elements within your approach to thinking about something, how you select information, how you prioritize one way of thinking over another, whether you think in terms of an analytical or a rationalist approach, which the Greeks kind of did with language or semantics, or you look more into the existential nature of reality, the the horrific unbounded nature of free will, the kind of godless universe there where nothing stops us from erring or making mistakes, um, and the unpredictability of life and humanity and its ironies. Um, so so that's basically what you need to do. I mean, you don't have to be whittling this tool into a kind of into a kind of weapon. You could be shaping the tool into like a tool for doing another job, if you see what I mean, tailoring a tool to another job. And that's a bit like how with philosophy you have to take a step back from a thinker and evaluate from a less holistic, more specific um, sort of read through and analysis of of a thinker's thoughts, because a thinker would very much think of the the grand parity in their system that would be kind of self justificationary in some sense. But when you break down a thinker's thoughts into the more specific regions that the thought covers, there can be greater contradictions, greater inclarities, and greater reason for skeptical approaches, given that a kind of unified theory can't be its very best in every single aspect. And but a lot of philosophers were kind of system builders. I mean, you had to if you look at philosophers like Leibniz and Newton, in the sense of a scientific system as well, and the whole development of the infinitesimal calculus that was kind of developed by Newton and Leibniz together, and not together but at the same time, and from different aspects. And so, therefore, as philosophers, we have to think in terms of, well, what can we bring to one thinker from another thinker? what great insights from another thinker can we apply within the different contexts of another thinker's terminology? Is it really fair to do it with another thinker's terminology? I mean, can we really think about the Bible if we don't live 4,500 years ago, or whatever, and or the Torah, as it were? Um, can we really ever actually understand what it's like to be the thinker itself that we're studying, or are we just tenuously linked by language, semantics, and the sort of common misnomers in language, and the way language has changed, for example, since like Shakespearean times to what you would call modern English today? You know, we'll, as I said in my autism lectures, we're all dependent on this fundamental exchange within language. That in postmodernism they would talk about the signifier, or the two signifiers, and what is signified, um, the speaker, the hearer, and what is actually managing to be communicated between the two, which can be like an aggregate of the ability of the two. If one has a greater deficit in understanding or unlocking language, then it can be the bare minimum that gets communicated between the two. But you've also got to see, reading philosophy is a bit like that. You're looking back into a different historical time frame of different references, and a different state of technology, and a different state of a man's development. So anyway, so I hope I've offered some insights into what the whole activity of philosophizing is. I mean, you might say that you would go about something a different way, but in a sense, we all have our own unique method and unique experiences and history behind what we bring to the kind of philosophical table of understanding, that we all have our own unique approach. Therefore, it wouldn't be necessarily a bad thing if you didn't believe in the weight that I'd say put on to skepticism, or existentialism, or post-structuralism. You would follow maybe a more dogmatic, more traditionalist approach, until you realise that even the most traditional thinkers, even the most staid thinkers, were just the best at building up argument in one direction, whilst the other thinkers were building up argument in other directions. It's a bit like somebody knitting a jumper and somebody unpicking the jumper at the same time, philosophy. So if you can imagine philosophy as a bit like unpicking a jumper, like clarifying and rationalizing, analyzing, and so forth. Thank you.